Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tele and today I have Seyi, a very special guest, another special guest on my channel. Like all my guests are special. So I think, where did I meet Seyi? I think it was at the gym. Yeah, when I was working at UUBO. We used to attend the same gym, then we reconnected on LinkedIn maybe last year or thereabout. Yeah. And yes, she's a Nigerian qualified lawyer and she's transitioned to legal tech. But let me just let you introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Seyi, as Tele has obviously introduced. Yes, we did meet at the gym a few years ago, and we've just been hovering around, like just knowing what the other person has been up to for like the past few years now. A bit about myself. Yes, qualified, practice in Lagos, Nigeria for about 4 years in total before I found myself in legal tech and decided that I wanted to go on that journey. At the moment, right now, I am a implementation associate at a legal AI company. Implementation associate really, it's a fancy word for like a technical specialist, someone that understands the tech and also like understands like the use case and workflows for like lawyers and how to essentially set them up on the technology and use and leverage AI for their daily workflow. So that's essentially it.
Okay, it sounds very interesting actually, because AI is like, I think we are currently in an AI revolution. So yes, that's you will soon be cashing out, or if you're not already cashing out, because these kinds of specialists will be in high demand. Okay, so can I ask why you decided to transition from a legal career in Nigeria? Yes, you're a qualified lawyer and you were practicing in Nigeria. Why did you decide to make that move from practicing as a lawyer to legal tech?
To explain it, really, this journey started in 2019. So I think that's important for context that we go way back to then. So 2019, I was maybe 2, 3 years in practice, and I was like, oh yeah, it's time for me to do a master's. And at the time, I'd gotten this like mentor, colleague that always just told me, don't do a master's in law if you have intention to keep on practicing, because according to she felt like it wasn't really useful for practice and more useful for anyone that was interested in going into academia, which, to be honest, the same opinion I kind of hold now. But at the time I was so convinced that I wanted to go into academia, so I decided that all right, I was going to do a master's in law because I wanted to actually teach or become a professor and take that line. And then so I moved to the UK in 2019, studied that master's. Unfortunately, remember COVID 2020, so I ended up doing like 3 quarters of my master's under lockdown. And so by the end of it, I really did not feel good about staying on for another 3 years studying and doing a PhD and doing one thing. I was bored of it immediately at the end of 2020. So I moved back to Nigeria. And then, but like within the LLM, because I was doing international commercial law, but then I was exposed to, or rather, I was even choosing courses around law and technology. And so at the time, I was also thinking that maybe I was going to do my PhD and choose a topic within law and technology. And then, fast forward, I'd moved back to Nigeria, and I was just like, I'm not sure I want to commit the next 4 years of my life doing this one thing, law and technology. But I liked law and technology, but I just didn't think I wanted to do it within the academia aspect of it. And I was thinking of what's next for me. And then again, I just come back to Nigeria. I started practicing again, and I just remember being so frustrated with like the lack of tech, the lack of tools. It's like you're seeing all these announcements, this startup today, that startup tomorrow, and everyone is talking about financial apps and everything, but it's like, where are the legal apps? Where are the legal tech apps? And that just sent me down this part of, okay, this is a big space, bigger than I'd actually thought it was, and what can I do there? And then I just remember, like, okay, I like the idea of being able to build build like legal tech things, like being able to actually build my own software. And then at the same time, if you remember, 2020, 2021 was when tech was becoming a really big thing within like the Nigerian community, especially on Twitter, and everybody was like, if you're not into tech, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, so this seems like the good thing. Like, okay, I'm entering tech where there's supposedly money, and I'm preserving my legal background, which is like, so legal tech. And researching, I found like it's actually really, really bigger. Like, it's way bigger than I envisaged it to be. So I got to a point where I was like, I need to understand what's happening here. Okay. The angle I took it from was I wanted to understand like software, how to build the software. So I went from, I wanted to learn how to code. I needed to understand and be technical enough to build legal tech products. Where I am now, where that thought carried me through, very different, but that basically sets the stepping stone for me to say, okay, I want to go from full legal to legal tech. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Okay, so what steps? So you talked about doing a master's degree, then you went back to Nigeria. So how did you find yourself back here? And so what steps would you can give us just a summary of the steps that you took to actually land a job in this field, and how were you able to discover this field? Because I know you said you were interested in like coding and software development. So how did you make that?
Okay. So again, I was back in Lagos, and then I was like, okay, I know that at some point I want to be able to go back to the UK. And so I wanted, part of also the consideration in moving to legal tech was I wanted a career that could move across borders. So I could be in Nigeria one day, and if I moved to the UK, it was going to be something I could easily just adapt to and find my way in without having to start from the beginning or start from scratch. I did start from scratch, but I just felt like I'd gotten a softer landing. I'll get a softer landing if I have a career that transcends borders. So I started in Lagos by just attending, like trying to find where can I learn how to code, and found this like 3 week free online thing. She Codes is the name of the platform. 3 week online program, free. And I essentially tried my hands at it. I tried coding, and I saw that, okay, actually, I understand what they are saying here. I get it. It makes sense. And I was like, okay, I could actually do this bigger. So then the choice became, should I just stay in Nigeria and continue to do it? But I know I also wanted to leave the country. And so I just decided again, and it's like, it was a big decision, but I eventually had to make it, because I felt like it was going to be the thing that opens the doors for me once I moved here. So I enrolled again for another master's. This time it was an MSc in information technology. So so that's essentially the 2 steps I took. I took the mini coding thing in Lagos, and then I moved fully for a master's in information technology.
Wow, like I don't know if I could ever do it. Well, I'll never say never, but it just seems like wow, coding. There are so many numbers and different things. For that was a really bold step you took. Going applying for an MSc in information technology and actually completing it. So from a legal perspective, how did you find it? Was it challenging? The fact that you had a legal background, how were you able to meet up with all the demands of the program and everything that it entailed?
So that's a very interesting point of view, because like it was actually a recurring thing all through my MSc. When I was coding, I would be coding, and people would be like, "Are you sure you're a lawyer? Are you're a lawyer?" So I think maybe that was the benefit I had from actually trying it in a smaller scale first in Lagos, was that I saw it and I said, okay, this made sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to everybody, and that's the honest truth about it. And so it made sense to me. I realized I had a knack for it. down the line, I knew that this was not something I wanted to do long term, but I understood it. I had the logic for it. So I think maybe I was just lucky. It came easy to me. And so it was just like any other masters, like meeting your deadlines, being able to do your stuff on time, putting in your reports. So I didn't find it any bit particular more challenging than my first master's in law. It was just the same stress of doing a master's. But I would say I was lucky because I had peers that were even from more science backgrounds than I was, and they struggled. So it doesn't necessarily transcend. So I think it's a matter of doing it in a smaller scale and finding if it makes sense for you before trying to go all out.
Yes, that's important because paying for a master's is not cheap. So it's important to try out new things, and don't put yourself in a box, because for someone like me, again, I don't know, I've never tried it, but it seems so difficult. Well, I guess it seems difficult until you try. Okay, so what advice do you have for someone who is considering a similar career move? So from law to legal tech
Okay.
/ AI.
So first, I think the thing would be to identify your strengths first. It's like, what can I do? Legal tech is big. It's really big. There's so many aspects of it. There is actual legal project management, there's legal operations, there's legal engineering, there's knowledge management. It's big. So the first step is to identify your own strengths. It's like, what do I have? What do I know? And how can I use that to get what I want, and where can it take me? And so, like I said, like experimenting first with coding and trying to like see if I understood those concepts first was my identifying stage. Like, okay, what are my capabilities? What can I afford to do? And I realized, okay, this is something I'm actually capable of doing. So beyond actual legal coding and AI and actual technical experience, there are less technical things that are actually really transferable. So I think finding your niche within it, even if it's within the legal tech space, still staying within the policy aspect of things, still staying closer to law, data privacy, and security. Those things are really available to anybody as an individual, but you have to understand where your transferable skills are and where your transferable strengths are, and that's the sum of it for me, I think.
Okay, so you don't think, or because someone has asked me before about getting a master's in, is it, an MSc in information technology, because they wanted to transition to I think data protection or data privacy. So would you advise someone, let's say someone is in Nigeria, they want to move to the UK, or they're already in the UK and they're interested in this legal tech space, would you advise them to take a course or do an MSc in information technology, or what practical steps would you give them?
Good question. I think one thing I need to establish first is that what influenced me to take the MSc in information technology was because, bottom line, I wanted to japa as well, you know. And so I knew that an MSc or a master's is a good way in to the community, to find your community, to like scope out and understand your environment. So I feel like I could have achieved what the same things if I didn't take a course in like a actual formal masters and try to self-learn as well. But for me, the MSc element of it was the jackpot element. If you get what I mean, it just opened the door. So if, because not everybody can afford a master's fully funded, and with the cost of pounds and everything now, like FX and exchange, it's crazy. So I think it's achievable from sitting at home in Lagos and having the resources open to you. However, the flip side of that is that the legal tech environment in Lagos or Nigeria is if not nonsense, non-existent, if you know what I mean. Like, remember when we were practicing, what were the tools we were using? The maximum we were using was Law Pavilion, you know what I mean? And and legal tech has gone beyond that. Like, we've gone beyond legal research to actual practice management software and actual legal AI, you know what I mean? So I think an MSc would do good in bringing you into a new environment where that market is thriving. But as to learning the actual skills involved in getting into these spaces is not needed, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so if you're watching and you're thinking of transitioning to legal tech, you don't have to be worried about paying for a master's, because a master's is not cheap. And like she said, especially with the exchange rates now, the cost of pounds coming all the way from Nigeria is really not cheap. So you can learn the skills. And I like law because law is quite versatile. So even with your law degree, you have the transferable skills. Like, you have the foundation already. So you just need to upskill. Okay, thank you, Shay. So can I ask that, reflecting on your journey, are there things that you would have done differently during your career transition process?
Um, like I said, like, my journey was influenced by other factors like having to jackpot, so wanting to jackpot rather. And I think if I was to do anything differently, I wouldn't have changed the how. I would have probably changed the when. I would probably have just moved earlier and maybe in the first instance have just done the MSc in information technology without having actually done the LLM. So I don't think I would have changed the how because it got me to where I am now. I probably would have just changed the when. And I think also that if anyone is considering moving into tech, the time is really now because we're at a point where the AI is still developing and is still very, very niche. So it's like anything niche, you want to get in early and build a name for yourself before it becomes ubiquitous, it becomes everywhere, and then everyone is flooding in, and it becomes harder for you to make a name for yourself within that space. So I just think I would have done it earlier, but now it's still not too late. It's still very niche to have that combination of skills like understanding of legal cases, legal workflows, like even just because where I am now, I work with people that only just studied law. They've actually not gone into legal practice because what we don't understand is having that understanding of laws and regulations and how to actually interpret them is very important, especially within the use case of my company as a legal AI company, because we're training an AI to be able to recognize these things. So you need to have the actual contextual knowledge. So the time is now. Come to legal tech.
All right, then you can hear that. You heard it from her. So if you're ever thinking about it, the time is now. Okay, so I was going to ask about sponsorship. Well, from your perspective, are companies generally willing to sponsor those kind of roles, like legal tech roles?
Yes, because they're actual tech roles, and tech roles are kind of one of those roles that they actually get really sponsored, and especially if the kind of role you're looking at is something that has real technical knowledge involved, because not everyone can just stand up today and start training an AI. They probably don't know what to do or what to say. So these are really actual, like I said, niche skill sets. So they do tend to sponsor for them. And then again, I said earlier, that's kind of the reason why I chose a role like this, because it's a career that can transcend borders, and you're not like the way our legal career is boxed into geography. This is not. So they really do tend to sponsor for it, especially if you find yourself working in startups. There are really, really good ones that do sponsor sometimes, depends. But yeah, general question, yes, depending on where you find yourself. in. It's a good one to get sponsorship for.
So, if you're thinking of sponsorship, because I know this is a pain point of most people, they're looking for sponsorship, why not try legal tech? You just never know. You might get that sponsorship that you've been praying for. Okay, so can you talk us through your job hunting journey? Like, how was it for you? Did you get many rejections, or did you get a yes the first time you applied?
This is an interesting question. um, yes and no. So straight off my MSc, because this wasn't my first role after my MSc, but straight out of my MSc, the first role I applied for, literally the first role, because I just finished my dissertation and I was like, I'm taking a break. And then as soon as I came back, I was like, okay, this role looks nice, and I sent it and I got in. So I didn't have that rejection thing happen to me. But I think maybe I should have, because maybe it would have made me grow more resilient. I don't know, but it wasn't my experience, so to speak, especially roles that I really wanted to start first role and I got it. But then I moved to this role as well when I left that first role. Long story for another day. I left that first role, and then when I moved to this one, applied, I'll say I sent probably max 20 applications, because when I was getting this second role, to be honest, I didn't quite also know where I was going for or what I was going for. But I seen this opportunity. My friend had sent it to me. I was like, oh, your skill set matches this role, law and tech and everything. And I applied as well. So let's just say this was like number 15 of my applications, and I got in. So I think maybe that was attributed to, again, why and how the skill set that's being required for this kind of roles are really niche, and so not a lot of people have them. That's because I remember speaking to a recruiter and they said, oh, that when they in their talent pool, they see a lot of people that have lots of law experience, and they see a lot of people that have lots of technical experience, but they rarely find anybody that has both. And so I think that's what applied or happened in my case. So even though the 15 rejections were still painful, but relative to what I know happens with in my community and seeing what's happening in the job market, I think I was really lucky. So I didn't really have that problem.
Yeah, like you said, it's because of your skill set. So you have like it's a niche area, and you had legal experience and technology experience, so it was just the perfect blend. Okay, so I was going to ask what, like, maybe if you had three reasons why you were able to get your jobs, but I know one is because you had the required skill set. So which other two would you say were contributing factors?
Surprisingly, one that apparently was a theme that was recurring around the two roles I'd gotten was my positive energy. It shocked me because I was like, which me, positive energy? If you say so, you know what I mean? But apparently, they really like when someone is enthusiastic and seems bubbly and just so excited to join them, and they like that energy around you. So that was one thing, that feedback that I've gotten, that apparently influenced the decision in my favor. That's second thing. But the other thing, I think networking as well was very important, because my current role came from a friend who had apparently also even applied for the role, but then they were aware of my skill set and said, oh, that even though I'd applied for the role, I know that you probably be a better fit, because and someone that they would actually take for the role because you have the skill set that they're asking for. So I think that's another important thing, is networking and having a good community and having a good place to even if I was wanted to go back into the job market, for instance, I would also need to lean back into my network and say, okay, I'm looking for this. This is what I'm after, because I wouldn't have gotten that recommendation if they weren't aware of what I was looking for. So yeah.
Yeah, and if the person wasn't kind enough to tell you, or to, because some people would gatekeep. You said the person didn't really have the skill sets that they were looking for, and then the person now referred you. So it's important to have good people in your life as well, who will always root for you and plug you into new opportunities. Okay, so now to my last question, which is, I'm sure you can guess, on culture shocks that you've encountered so far. So are there any interesting experiences that you'd like us to know about?
Specifically in the workplace?
Yeah, just in general.
There are a lot, but one I could think of, the very first one, was my first role. I was like, everyone has lunch together. And I was like, okay. There are 8 working hours in a day, 3 of which I spend in the office. And of those 8 working hours, I would really like that 1 hour to separate myself and, get myself together, my own personal time within those working hours. And it was a really big, huge shock to me that everyone got up to go eat lunch together. I don't know if anyone else experienced that or found that funny, but it was just like, I need this 1 hour to myself. I don't know. And then it became a thing of, because apparently that's the 1 hour where they're able to be more social and friendly and just talk and get to know you. So removing myself from that setting was kind of making me seem like unfriendly or unsocial, or like not someone open to being teamwork or team spirity. I found that really odd. I was directly tied to like my team spirit or my teamwork or my ability to communicate or something. It was just like I just felt like I needed that 1 hour away. But I've learned how to balance it out now. I've like, if I do need that 15 minutes, I could just say, okay, sorry guys, I need to go take a call. I need to go make a call. So I take these 15 minutes away from everything to just get my own self together before I go back to work. But yeah, that was the biggest one for me. I was like, why? Because like in Lagos, worst case in Lagos, if you want to go and eat, okay, 1 or 2 people, but literally everybody. Maybe because we're a small company, to be fair, but like everybody is going together to go and grab lunch. What's going on here? I'm sorry.
Okay, is there anything else?
I think another one that I think this one is, I don't know if it's more is a culture shock, but one thing I found really interesting, I didn't quite know or was aware of, that as Nigerians we interrupt people a lot when they are speaking. And I didn't know that until I entered the workforce in the UK, and it became a thing. It was like, okay, you actually have to wait for them to finish speaking before you say what your thought or actually express yourself. Because sometimes someone is saying something and it's hitting, like you're understanding it, and you're like, you want to just chip in one word to just help the conversation. And I was just like, actually, no, that's not right. That's not good. It's not promoted within this space. Like, you need to actually calm down and wait your turn to speak. That was another thing I had to learn pretty quickly. But yeah, just my unique experiences.
It's because of the size of the company, like you said. But I think I would have just been like, I would have been tired of eating with everyone, because sometimes you just need that solitude to clear your head. Yeah, I mean, it's not like your co-workers, anything was wrong with them, but sometimes you just need some me time in the office. But yeah, at least it's better. I guess things are better now in your new role.
Oh yeah, definitely. I still like that. Like I said, I actually take we're in smaller groups now, so it's not like everyone's having a group lunch. But we actually, part of like our onboard like bonding exercises, we actually now organize actually a team-wide lunch, but on a daily, it's really just if you want to come or if you want to grab someone to go have lunch, which is much better in my opinion.
It should be. Yeah. All right then. Thank you so much, Shay. I can't believe it's already been 30 minutes because I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I'm sure you've learned a thing or two about legal tech, about the fact that a lawyer can do an MSc in information technology and still thrive at it. So well done, Shady, and thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you for sticking your hand up and for volunteering to be here. I really appreciate your time and the valuable advice and for sharing your experience. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, please don't forget to like, share this video and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.